Hello, and welcome to One Cool Thing, PC Mag's daily show where we share with you one cool thing that we've been testing out here in PC Mag Labs. I'm Tom Brandt, this is Sasha Segan, and we are going to talk about a really cool thing today, but we want you to ask any questions that you might have about technology, really anything else. We'll try our best to answer. If you're watching this not live, later on YouTube or somewhere else, please do subscribe and we'll notify you when we have another One Cool Thing. Or if you are live, please do ask us questions. We have Social Pete who is monitoring the comments, ready to throw your questions at us. And Sasha, here we have this incredibly light thing called the Sony Digital Paper.
Yeah, so the Sony Digital Paper is the largest e-ink device we've ever tested, I think. It is a 13.3-inch slab of e-ink, and it is so thin and so light. It is pardon me. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, the lightness of this thing is absolutely incredible. It looks like, okay, this is just a big e-reader, but it is so light.
Yeah, so I'm
incredible.
reminded of what happened when I went to Apple and I saw the first iPad Air. And I remember when the iPad Air was announced, I thought, this can't make that much of a difference, you know, why are they just making it lighter? And then I went to Apple and I picked up the iPad Air and I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Because the tactile feel and just the effortlessness of carrying something like this around when it's this big but this light, it's 12 ounces.
That's exactly how I feel when I pick that up. Those 12 ounces are like nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of amazing. So the Sony Digital Paper, it is very expensive. Okay, this is a $700 e-reader, but it's pretty much unique in the world of e-readers for being so big. And being so big means that it kind of exists to manage the kinds of documents that would otherwise look cramped or be unreadable on other e-readers. Like, for instance, I've got some sheet music here. And sheet music is not typically something you would do on an e-reader.
Right.
But on this 13.3-inch screen, it looks gorgeous. Or another example is a textbook. And so now textbooks also tend to be large format pages with a lot of shading and graphics, and they don't look good on other e-readers. Well, on this e-reader, a textbook looks terrific.
Not to mention, again, going back to weight, textbooks are heavy.
Right.
And if you're, are going back and forth to class, storing your, 500-page medical school textbook on this 12-inch Sony digital paper would be a game changer.
13-inch digital paper.
13
So now
inch,
it comes with this stylus,
Okay.
and the stylus lets you annotate. Documents.
Right, and I'm not sure if you can hear that out there, but that sounded exactly like writing on a piece of paper.
Yeah, the tactile feel of this stylus is amazing. It comes with a couple of different tips. Now, the tips do wear down very quickly, so you're probably going to have to buy more tips. But it comes with a couple of tips, and it really does feel like pencil on paper. Now, I wouldn't use it for, they have an option in here for live note-taking. Mm-hmm. And because this is so big, there are different kinds of notes, different kinds of note templates you can use. And so you can take notes next to a document. But one thing I found is that for note taking, there is a little bit of latency on the e-ink, and that makes it not quite as enjoyable as note taking, say, on an iPad Pro, which has that 120 hertz screen and really, really focuses on having less latency.
Right, so if you're just joining us, we're talking about the Sony Digital Paper. It's a $700 giant e-ink tablet. Looks like we have a question.
What kind of books can you get on this?
And here's the problem with the Sony Digital Paper. Okay, so the Sony Digital Paper is an amazing piece of hardware with the software that you would expect in a product from 2004. So the Sony Digital Paper will only read unprotected PDF. Anything that you can get into anything that you can get in unprotected PDF, or that you can convert into unprotected PDF, possibly by using DRM stripping software, you can read on here. But you cannot read any format other than unprotected PDF, and Sony provides no store, no online anything,
Right.
no way of getting documents. You got to get your own PDFs from wherever it is you get PDFs. And now, for instance, here is a Kindle book, which I own. Let me get rid of this side note here. No, I went to only the side notes. Now I need to go back to only the Kindle book.
And you do have to wait a bit when you change views
Yeah,
or
yeah.
navigate. There's some lag there.
So here's a Kindle book. Here's a Kindle book which I own, and I used the software Caliber to convert it into unprotected PDF, thereby doing something that's a little gray area legally, but since I do own the Kindle book, and I'm not sharing it with anyone else, so sue me.
Right.
But that's what you have to do if you want to get books on here. Now, when I've talked to Sony about who uses this, one thing you have to understand is that in certain specialized markets, PDFs are very popular. For instance, in the world of academic journals, a lot of academics, a lot of professors, a lot of PhD students subscribe to journals which tend to be in unprotected PDF, and they'll be getting hundreds and hundreds of pages of these journals every month, and they're in PDF, and you can transfer those to this document reader.
And those don't have DRM with them.
Right,
Those are
right.
just regular PDFs.
Or lawyers. Lawyers are printing legal briefs off their computers from Microsoft Word format to PDF using the PDF driver in their computer.
To mark up.
And then using that on this. So that's where these PDFs are coming from, but you're not buying books.
Let's take another question.
Someone says, I heard standard PDFs, especially ones scanned from books, don't show up well on e-ink. Is that true?
No, I mean, we're looking
have some
here.
here.
This is a PDF that is converted from a Kindle book. Look how nice that is.
But I think also the question really is if you take a scan of an actual physical textbook, or
Like
something
that you slap down on a scanner?
Yeah. How does that look?
I did not look at something that was scanned using a scanner.
But I think what we can say is that if you have seen that
Here's-
before another ebook, it will look similar because it's the same
Yeah,
type of
here's a
screen.
document. Now here's a document that I printed using the printer driver on my computer from a scanned PDF travel guide.
Okay.
And once more, it looks good. Like, I think if you slap it down on a scanner, and I've seen this and I've done this before, you have the problem of, like, you see the edges of the page and you see, like, where the binding is, and that's, that's a little difficult to look at in any case.
Now, once you, so you have this, let's say you do transfer something using that software and then into a PDF that you can read on this Sony Digital Paper. How do you actually get it onto the device? Is it wireless? How do you get that on there?
And now we get to the other problem with the Sony Digital Paper, still software, so I guess it's part of the same problem. Yes, I will get to your questions in a minute. If you want to transfer things onto the digital paper, you need to install Sony's relatively awful PC or Mac software. Like a 2004 program, this involves weird drivers that require you to turn off both your antivirus and your firewall before you install them.
So let's just say, there's no relative awfulness. It's just,
Yeah,
kinda-
it's just like ancient software. And then for your first sync between your computer and the tablet, you need to connect your computer and tablet with a USB cable, after which, if the computer and tablet are on the same Wi-Fi network, you can transfer files from the computer to the tablet using the Wi-Fi network. However, the tablet itself has no cloud capability whatsoever. This tablet cannot get to the internet in any way, shape, or form. All documents must be transferred from your PC or Mac.
So how does that work? It sends the Wi-Fi information over the USB, and then that's how it connects to your Wi-Fi network?
Yeah, it transfers the encrypted Wi-Fi identification
Because
data,
there's no
basically,
interface on the actual device
for setting up.
connecting.
Yeah.
Let's take another question.
Why wouldn't someone just spend a little bit more money and get an iPad?
Because e-ink is really easy on the eyes. A lot of people really love the reading experience of e-ink because since it's not backlit and the screen isn't glowing, they find it much more restful and much more conducive to focus when looking at documents, especially for long periods of time. E-ink is also absolutely terrific when it comes to outdoor viewing because e-ink is a, I believe, a transflective surface as opposed to radiating light outwards.
Right.
So e-ink gets better the more the more background lighting you have, as opposed to an LCD screen, which tends to be the other way around.
And I'm looking at this at an extreme angle right now. We have bright studio lights here. I can still read the words on this, and then on an iPad, the glare would be
yeah. The viewing
incredible.
angles on e-ink are basically perfect. I'm looking at it here. I'm going to show you. Let's see if this comes through on the camera. Extremely edge on. You see how it's still completely readable, basically. Right. If you ask why get this instead of an iPad, it's a lot similar to the question of why does anyone buy a Kindle instead of reading on their phone or a small tablet. It's the same issue of eye strain and visual experience. Now, one advantage this doesn't have, by the way, is that it doesn't have eternal battery life. One thing that people do like about Kindles is that you only have to charge them once every several weeks. But if you use this relatively intensely, because the screen is so big and the device is so thin, you do have to charge it once every, I would say, 4 or 5 days. And that's less than you have to charge your iPad, but it's not what you expect to get from, this is the largest other e-ink reader we have in inventory, which is the Kobo Aura 1, which is about 8 inches.
Yeah. Let's take another question.
Why isn't there color?
Because color e-ink as a technology has never quite worked. There is no large, affordable, scaling color e-ink display technology. Many have tried, and I've seen a lot of attempts over the years. There was a bit of a technology fad in color e-readers maybe 3-4 years ago. They appeared briefly, but the problem is nobody could scale the manufacturing processes. And so as a result, the screen technology just isn't out there. That's the reason.
And color would be, I guess, beneficial for a device like this that you're using to read textbooks or maps, or not so much sheet music, but really textbooks or maps could benefit from color.
Color would be great. It's just that no one has managed to make a color e-ink screen that can scale from a manufacturing process perspective. Qualcomm invested a ton of money into this technology called Mirasol, which I saw.
That sounds like a drug.
Yeah, but which I saw on a bunch of devices. I think they couldn't get it bigger than about 6 inches, and even at that size, the manufacturing yield was really low, and I think they've terminated that. So yeah, it's just you can't make one is the problem.
So again, if you're just joining us, this is the Sony Digital Paper. It's $700. We already covered why you'd want to buy this instead of spending a bit more for an iPad, and we kind of also touched on why. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Here's the crazy thing. Instead of spending the same amount for an iPad,
right, sorry, same
it costs
amount.
as much as
Yes.
an iPad.
Sure, $700. That gives you an iPad. What's the base model iPad Pro cost?
The base model iPad Pro, I think, is $599. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pete.
Yeah. So there's certainly a trade-off here in terms of value for money, but
let me show you some other document types on here. So we looked at here's a travel guide printed to PDF. I'll show you once again a Kindle book printed to PDF, but one that has a lot of charts and graphs in it. Here, I'll get some of those charts and graphs up. Come on, charts and graphs. And you see how it has a really nice swiping page turning experience.
right, with the caveat that
It's
the more
not flashing that badly.
the more you swipe, the quicker you'll have to recharge, though.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Here's a map, which we printed, once again, printed from our computer. And now you see here, now this isn't a 300 dpi screen. This is not as high resolution as the latest Kindles. And this is annotated with the pen, as you can see. This is not as high resolution as the latest Kindles. So that if you want to get really close to a high resolution document, you have to zoom, and you can zoom. but there's only one level of zoom.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not like pinching on the
Yeah,
on the
once
tablet.
again, software. This is really limited by its software.
Now, is that going to improve, or is Sony simply just putting this out there because there's no other competition and there's not really going to be much innovation on the
I
software front?
kind of doubt it. Like, I'd love it to improve, but I don't know. This has kind of been a sort of low-key skunkworks project for Sony for a while, and I don't feel like they have a lot of resources devoted to it. No, here's a comic. Comics are interesting. It's a 16 grayscale screen, so you're not going to get a lot of detail in the color, but just look how nice this looks. It looks really nice. This is a graphic novel, once again purchased from Amazon, which I DRM'd, but I'm not sharing it with anyone, and I do own it. Let's take another question.
So would you, what would you say is the main competition then for this? If someone wanted something that's just a bit cheaper than this, what do you think is the best alternative?
There is no competition that is just a bit cheaper and is this big and e-ink. That's what makes this product interesting. A lot of people, if you are okay with the reading experience on an LCD screen, an iPad Pro is a lot more versatile.
Sure.
Even a standard iPad's a lot more versatile.
Yeah, you can use that to actually create art. I mean,
Right.
If you're an artist, that's a better choice for
Right,
creating.
but they're not e-ink. Now, there's two major competitors in the big e-ink realm. One is a tablet called the Remarkable, and the Remarkable is 600 as opposed to this being 700.
So-
It supports both EPUB and PDF, but it's smaller. It isn't 13 inches. I think it's in the 10-inch range. So if you really want the legal pad size, the Remarkable isn't necessarily going to do it for you.
And a small difference in price,
Yeah,
ultimately.
yeah.
Not a $99 difference in
Yeah,
price.
that said, the Remarkable has a lower latency pen. So for people who are sketching rather than annotating, the Remarkable sounds like a better solution. Now, the other big competitor is even more expensive, which is something called the Onyx Books Max Carta, which is also 13.3 inches. It uses the same screen panel, in fact. But it is nearly $1,000, and what makes the Books Max Carta interesting is that it runs a full copy of Android 4, which means it runs apps, but it runs them weird and badly. So,
Because it's an e-ink display.
right, and Android isn't designed for e-ink displays,
Nope.
and also Android 4 is insanely insecure. And
old.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly,
it's
exactly.
not from 2004, but it might as well
Right,
be.
right. But for people who very specifically kind of have that kind of hacker mentality and the idea of, a giant e-ink tablet that can run Android apps, the Books Max Carta appeals to that tiny slice of people.
So there are, and that tiny slice, we'd like to know if you are part of that tiny slice, do let us know, because this is not something that is going to be at Best Buy for the holiday season. I mean,
right, this is something you buy online from Sony.
This is like
But I see this having a lot of appeal, once again, to academics, to lawyers, to pilots who carry flight manuals, to anyone who has a stack of 500-page textbooks that they would rather, that they can somehow convert to PDF. Looks like we have another question.
How fragile is it?
It's not that sturdy. I mean,
Can we
it's
do a
not-
drop test?
It's not water resistant. It flexes a bit at the edges.
Yeah, and I actually do
yeah.
see that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so thin that you've got when you're plugging in the USB thing on the top, you can miss that.
You
and
can see
it's-
the seam
yeah, it's-
between the edge and the beginning of the screen. This is not a sturdy device. Get a case. I always say get a case for these things.
Take
So
another
Sony sells cases specifically for
Sony
this?
sells cases for this. Yeah, we got one. It's a flip case. It actually has a ring that you can put the pen into.
And that actually might be something preventing you from using it in like an industrial setting or like in an aircraft cockpit where you might be worried about the durability of it. So a case would probably be necessary in those cases.
Let's take another question.
If we have an undergrad who's looking for an e-reader just for college textbooks, what would you recommend?
The thing is, this is really expensive. And you're an undergrad, and you're probably committing yourself to like $100,000 worth of debt right now. So can I really tell you to buy a $700 e-reader? I don't know. That makes me uncomfortable.
If you could, though, this is great.
Yes. Now, if you can see, if your textbook is of a decent size to view on an 8-inch screen, okay, this is the Kobo Aura 1, which is, as I said, the next biggest reasonably priced e-reader we know of. that has a higher resolution 300 dpi screen, supports a lot more file formats, and only costs $229.
But then you have what's the screen size again on this thing?
This is an 8-inch screen.
8 inches. So that's
Yeah.
that's a huge down.
Exactly,
grade
exactly.
in
So the
terms of
question
screen
is,
size.
can you read your textbook in an 8-inch screen? If so, $229. If you need a 13-inch screen, you've gone up to $700.
You know-
now the other possibility, of course, is if you're okay with an LCD screen, the $329 10-inch iPad is a terrific
Yeah.
companion and does everything in the world, and you can use it as a computer. Or as the little girl says on the TV ad, what's a computer? You know?
Yeah, textbooks. I mean, really, ultimately, for an option for a student who can't spend $700, I would and really needs that giant screen size, an iPad or
You would
another
say
tablet is
329
probably-
iPad.
Yeah.
The 329 iPad is such a good device for so many people. I recommend it to so many people for so many things. Let me show you another weird software problem in this thing. Okay. Okay. So I got this book. It's got like data in it and stuff, and my professor says go to page 121.
yes.
You can't go to a specific page number in this software.
That seems like a glaring oversight.
Okay, you can tap this bar at the top, which goes to sort of roughly the right place in the book, or you can call up thumbnails, or
You can go to annotations.
you can
right?
go to, you can go
Yeah.
to the pages that you've annotated. I don't know if I've annotated any pages in this document. No, it doesn't look like I have. But you can't actually punch in a page number, which
Well,
is
that's-
really weird.
That's a huge downside
I
to spend
know.
$700 on something to read books, and you can't do the one thing that you're going to
Sony-
need to do in
Sony,
class.
do an upgrade that
mean,
lets you choose a page number, for goodness sake.
I'm just picturing sitting in a college classroom, and everyone needs to read from page 503, and by the time that you get there, everyone else has moved on to page 504.
What is up with that? Okay, so that is something Sony could totally fix.
Yeah, that seems like a very minor
Yeah.
addition.
Any more questions out there? Okay.
Great. So this has been the Sony Digital Paper.
Mm-hmm.
It is $700. Great piece of engineering.
Mm-hmm.
Very expensive. We're not sure who's going to buy it, but
Well, no, I'll
well,
tell
we
you
do-
who's
we
going to
do know
buy
who's
it.
gonna buy
Okay, great piece of engineering, very expensive, great for people in verticals where they handle a lot of thick PDFs, like professional academics, lawyers, doctors, pilots, but definitely a niche product.
So if you are one of those people, definitely check out the full review at PCMag.com. It has a 3.5-star rating, but it could be very good for you depending on your profession and needs. We will be back tomorrow on Facebook Live at 10 a.m. Eastern with yet another one cool thing from PC Labs, and we'll see you then. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.